We grow up with the stories of history's victors, don't we? Rome, with its legions and its emperors, looms large in our collective imagination. But what if I told you that the ancient world we think we know, the one that laid the foundation for our own, could have been unimaginably different? Imagine a world where the Roman Republic, on the cusp of becoming an empire, stumbles and falls. Not to Caesar, not from within, but to a foreign invader at the height of its power. Imagine a world where Hannibal Barca, the Carthaginian general who crossed the Alps with elephants and shattered Roman armies, achieved his ultimate goal, the destruction of Rome itself. How would our world, your world, look different if Hannibal had stood triumphant in the ruins of the Forum? The Roman Republic, even at its most vulnerable, was a resilient beast. It was a civilization built on the principles of strength, discipline, and an unyielding spirit. The Republic had faced numerous threats over the centuries, from internal strife to external invasions, yet it always managed to rise from the ashes, stronger and more determined. To truly break it, Hannibal wouldn't just have needed to sack Rome, a feat that in itself would have been monumental. He would have had to go further, to penetrate the very heart of Roman society and governance. He'd have needed to occupy it, to dismantle the machinery of Roman power. This meant not just defeating the Roman legions in battle, but also breaking the spirit of the Roman people, dismantling their institutions, and erasing their cultural identity. Think of the chaos that would have followed. The streets of Rome, once bustling with commerce and life, would have been filled with the cries of the wounded and the dying. The once orderly society would have descended into anarchy, with factions vying for control and power. The Roman Senate, that body of old men who held the threads of empire, scattered or slaughtered. These were the men who had guided Rome through its darkest hours, who had made the decisions that shaped the destiny of the Republic. Without them, the very fabric of Roman society would have unraveled. Roman legions, those supposedly invincible forces shattered and leaderless, left to carve out their own destinies. These soldiers, who had once marched in unison under the banner of Rome, would have been left to fend for themselves, to find their own way in a world turned upside down. Without Rome as a unifying force, the Italian peninsula, a patchwork of tribes and city-states, would have descended into chaos. Each tribe, each city-state, would have sought to assert its own dominance, leading to a never-ending cycle of conflict and bloodshed. The Gauls, those fierce warriors who had menaced Rome for centuries, would they have seen opportunity in Rome's fall? These tribes, known for their ferocity and their desire for conquest, would have likely seized the moment to expand their territories, to settle old scores, and to carve out new kingdoms for themselves. Would Greece, only recently brought under Roman sway, have broken free to reassert its own dominance? The Greeks, with their rich history and culture, might have seen Rome's downfall as a chance to reclaim their former glory, to rebuild their cities, and to re-establish their influence in the Mediterranean. The ripples of Rome's fall would have spread outwards, wouldn't they? The collapse of such a powerful entity would have sent shockwaves throughout the known world, affecting not just the immediate neighbors of Rome but distant lands as well. Trade routes would have been disrupted, alliances broken, and new power dynamics established. The nascent kingdoms of Europe, those that would one day form the bedrock of modern nations, would they have emerged at all? The political landscape of Europe would have been drastically altered, with new powers rising and falling in the vacuum left by Rome's absence. Or would Europe have become a battleground for 1,000 petty kingdoms, locked in endless cycles of war and conquest? Without a central authority to maintain order, the continent could have been plunged into a dark age of constant strife, where might made right and the strong preyed on the weak. Without the Pax Romana, that era of unprecedented peace and prosperity enforced by Roman might, would the European identity we know even exist? The Pax Romana allowed for the exchange of ideas, the spread of culture, and the development of infrastructure that laid the foundations for modern Europe. Without it, the continent might have remained fragmented and divided, a collection of warring states rather than a unified entity. Now imagine standing not on the banks of the Tiber, but on the shores of the Mediterranean, the heart of the Carthaginian world. The air is filled with the scent of salt and the sounds of bustling ports, where ships laden with goods from across the known world dock and depart. This is a world where the sea is not a barrier but a highway, connecting distant lands and diverse cultures. Carthage, the Phoenician traders, the masters of the sea, would have ascended to a position of unrivaled power. Their ships, sleek and fast, would have been a common sight from the Pillars of Hercules to the Levant. The Carthaginians were not just traders, they were explorers venturing into uncharted waters, establishing colonies and spreading their influence far and wide. Think of their sprawling maritime empire stretching from North Africa to Spain, a thalassocracy built on trade and naval dominance. Their control of the seas allowed them to monopolize trade routes, bringing immense wealth and resources into their cities. The Carthaginian navy, a formidable force, ensured their supremacy on the waters, deterring rivals and protecting their interests. What would the impact of Carthaginian culture have been on the ancient world? Their art, a blend of Phoenician, Greek, and indigenous influences, would have left a lasting mark on the Mediterranean aesthetic. Carthaginian architecture, with its grand temples and public buildings, would have inspired awe and admiration, influencing the styles of neighboring civilizations. Would their gods, Baal and Tanit, have replaced Jupiter and Juno in the Roman pantheon? The religious practices of Carthage, deeply rooted in ancient traditions, would have spread across their empire, blending with local customs and beliefs. Festivals, rituals, and temples dedicated to their deities would have become common sights in cities from Carthage to Cadiz. Would their language, Punic, a distant cousin of Hebrew, have become the lingua franca of the Mediterranean, echoing through the halls of power and scholarship? The Punic language, rich in history and literature, would have been the medium of administration, trade, and culture. Scholars and scribes would have studied Punic texts, preserving and transmitting Carthaginian knowledge and wisdom. Imagine the grand temples and palaces of Carthage, not Rome, serving as the architectural inspiration for generations to come. The city's skyline, dominated by towering structures and intricate designs, would have been a testament to Carthaginian ingenuity and ambition. These buildings, constructed with advanced techniques and materials, would have stood the test of time, becoming iconic symbols of their civilization. Would we see echoes of Carthaginian art and literature in our own time, a testament to their enduring legacy? Carthaginian artists and writers, drawing from a rich cultural heritage, would have produced works that resonated through the ages. Their stories, myths, and philosophies would have been passed down, influencing generations of creators and thinkers. The Carthaginians were a pragmatic people, driven by commerce and profit. Their marketplaces, bustling with activity, would have been centers of economic life where goods from across the empire were bought and sold. Carthaginian merchants, skilled in negotiation and trade, would have played a crucial role in the economic network of the ancient world. Would their dominance have ushered in an era of unprecedented economic growth and technological advancement? Carthaginian engineers and inventors, driven by the demands of trade and industry, would have developed new technologies and techniques pushing the boundaries of what was possible. Their innovations, from shipbuilding to agriculture, would have had a profound impact on the ancient world. Or would their focus on trade have come at the expense of cultural development, leaving behind a legacy of materialism and ruthless pragmatism? The Carthaginian emphasis on commerce and profit, while bringing wealth and prosperity, might have overshadowed other aspects of their civilization. Their legacy, a complex tapestry of achievements and contradictions, would have been a subject of debate and reflection for historians and scholars. Chapter 3: A World Turned Upside Down. The consequences of Hannibal's victory extend far beyond the borders of Rome, don't they? Imagine a world where the Carthaginian victory at the Battle of Cannae was not just a temporary setback for Rome, but a decisive turning point in history. The ripples of this victory would have spread across continents, altering the course of civilizations. The political map of Europe, redrawn by Carthaginian might, would be unrecognizable to our eyes. Carthage, with its strategic prowess and maritime dominance, could have established a vast empire stretching from the Mediterranean to the far reaches of Europe. The balance of power would shift dramatically, with Carthage at the helm of a new world order. Would powerful empires, forged in the fires of conquest, have risen to challenge Carthage's dominance? Imagine the Gauls, the Iberians, and other ancient tribes uniting under a common cause to resist Carthaginian rule. The ancient world would be a cauldron of conflict, with alliances forming and breaking as new powers emerged. Would the world have been divided between these new powers, locked in a perpetual struggle for supremacy? And what of technology? The Carthaginians, known for their seafaring skills, might have driven technological advancements in shipbuilding and navigation, leading to earlier discoveries of distant lands and new trade routes. The Romans were renowned for their engineering prowess, their roads and aqueducts marvels of the ancient world. But in a Carthaginian-dominated world, would these feats of engineering have been overshadowed by Carthaginian innovations? Perhaps Carthage would have developed its own architectural wonders, rivaling the grandeur of Rome. Would Carthage, with its focus on maritime trade, have spurred equally impressive advancements in shipbuilding and navigation? The Carthaginians were already masters of the sea, and their dominance could have led to an age of exploration far earlier than the age of discovery we know today. Would we see the world mapped centuries ahead of schedule, driven by Carthaginian exploration? Imagine ancient explorers venturing into the unknown, charting new territories, and establishing trade routes that would connect distant civilizations. Consider the languages we speak today. The dominance of Carthage could have led to the spread of the Punic language, influencing the development of languages across Europe and beyond. Would Latin, the language of Rome, have become a footnote in history, replaced by Punic or other tongues? The cultural and linguistic landscape of the world would be vastly different, with Carthaginian culture leaving an indelible mark on history. Would the very fabric of our language, our culture, our very understanding of the world be fundamentally different? The arts, literature, and philosophy of Carthage would have influenced generations, shaping the intellectual and cultural heritage of humanity. It's a dizzying thought, isn't it, to ponder how the victory of one man, Hannibal, could have set off a chain reaction, altering the destiny of nations and the course of human history. To consider how one man's victory could have reshaped the course of human history. Hannibal's triumph at Cannae was more than just a military victory. It was a moment that could have changed the world as we know it. The legacy of Hannibal and Carthage would have been written in the annals of history, a testament to the power of a single event to transform the world. We can only speculate on the world Hannibal might have made, a world where the might of Carthage overshadowed the glory of Rome. What do you think would have happened if Hannibal had conquered Rome? Let us know in the comments. Would it have been a world of prosperity and cultural exchange, or one of perpetual conflict and oppression? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more intriguing historical scenarios.